Hello, how you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. I haven't made a video in a minute, but I want to slap up some stats on it's a social issue. It's a race issue, and I know some people might find this offensive, but you know it's just pure facts. It's not speculation, but it talks about the population where black people is concerned is least diverse place. And then I saw a couple videos that really kind of really shocked me that there's some after death experiences I want to share with you on this video. And but I'm going to start with this video.
Welcome to my next travel spot, where we like to say it's a great big world out there. Explore it all responsibly. Now, I know what you're thinking. Responsibly? Robert, what does that even mean? And it's a fair question. World responsibly wouldn't even be
Sorry about that.
This isn't a perfect world, is it? Nope, it's America. First up, we're headed to the Northeast, a place known for its charming towns, beautiful fall foliage, and, well, being really, really white. That's right, we're talking about Vermont. Now, Vermont's known for a lot of things: maple syrup, Ben and Jerry's ice cream, Bernie Sanders. But diversity, not so much. Vermont's history is a bit more complicated. Isolated and reliant on small-scale farming, it didn't attract many migrants, especially black Americans. Over time, Vermont became synonymous with rolling hills, charming villages, and a lack of diversity. But first, let's dive a little deeper into Vermont's past, shall we? Now, I know what you're thinking, Trevor. Is it even possible to change a state's demographic makeup? And it's a fair question, but here's the thing. Vermont's story isn't set in stone. In fact, there are organizations like the Vermont Professionals of Color Network working tirelessly to make the state more welcoming to people of color. They're creating spaces for networking, mentorship, and community building, showing everyone that Vermont isn't just for folks who look good in flannel and can tell the difference between maple syrup grades. And you know what? It's working. Slowly but surely, Vermont is seeing a rise in its minority population. Now, it's not a dramatic shift, mind you. This isn't a Tyler Perry movie where suddenly everyone's doing the electric slide in downtown Montpelier, but it's a start. More and more people of color are choosing to call Vermont home, bringing with them their cultures, their stories, and their perspectives. And that, my friends, is something to celebrate. So, the next time you think of Vermont, don't just think of cheese and snow-capped mountains. Think of a state that's slowly but surely embracing its multicultural future, one maple creamy at a time. Alright folks, we're packing up our flannel shirts and heading south. Well, south-ish. Our next stop is Maine, known for its rugged coastline and delicious seafood. But Maine has a diversity problem. With a black population of less than 2%, it's whiter than a plate of lobster rolls at a Jimmy Buffett concert. But a little diversity never hurt anyone, right? Maine has a rich history in the fight for racial equality. It was once a stop on the Underground Railroad. So why is it still struggling with diversity today? Well, that's the million-dollar question. The answer is complicated. It involves economic factors, historical migration patterns, and a bit of good old-fashioned prejudice. Now, I know what you're thinking. Trevor, you're making Maine sound about as welcoming as a polar bear in a heat wave. And look, I get it. But here's the thing. Maine's not stuck in the past. In fact, there are amazing individuals and organizations working tirelessly to change the narrative. Take Portland, for example. Maine's largest city is a melting pot of cultures with a thriving art scene, delicious food from around the world, and a growing community of people of color. Organizations like the Indigo Arts Alliance are providing spaces for artists of color to showcase their work, while groups like the Maine People of Color Network are fostering community and advocating for racial justice. And it's not just Portland. Cities like Lewiston, Bangor, and even smaller towns are experiencing a surge in diversity, thanks in part to refugee resettlement programs and a growing awareness of the importance of inclusion. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Maine is a utopia of diversity. It's not. But it's a state that's slowly but surely confronting its past, embracing its future, and proving that even in the land of lobster rolls and lighthouses, there's room for everyone. Welcome to New Hampshire, the Granite State. Less than 2% of the population is black. It's like finding a vegan at a BBQ festival. But cities like Manchester and Concord are changing. They're inviting black professionals, jobs, trees, tax-free shopping. Maybe they're onto something. So, why is New Hampshire so white? Well, part of it is its history. It was all about small farms, lumberjacks, and let's be real, not a lot of black people were rushing to chop down trees in the freezing cold. Can you blame them? But times are changing, or at least they're trying to. Universities and businesses are stepping up, trying to recruit more diversely. They're realizing that a little bit of color can go a long way, and not just on their fall foliage. Now, I know what you're thinking. Trevor, is this going to be another one of those diversity is good for business arguments? And you know what? Maybe it is. But hey, if it brings some much-needed diversity to the Granite State, I'm all for it. Look, change doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process, like watching a glacier melt. But hopefully New Hampshire can pick up the pace a bit. Because let's be honest, a state without diversity is like a plate of plain pasta. Technically edible, but incredibly boring. Next up, we're heading to Big Sky Country, Montana. Montana is known for its breathtaking landscapes and cowboy culture, but it has a tiny black population. It's like finding a decent bagel in the Wild West. Montana has a rich Native American history, but the state is still overwhelmingly white. It's like a bowl of vanilla ice cream with one chocolate chip. It's there, but it's lonely. But there's hope for more diversity. Maybe one day, Montana will be a tapestry of cultures. So, why is Montana so white? Well, part of it is its history. It was built on ranching, mining, and let's be real, those industries weren't exactly known for their diverse hiring practices. It was more like, can you ride a horse and swing a pickaxe? Great, you're hired. Diversity wasn't exactly a top priority, but things are changing, or at least they're trying to. Social justice organizations are popping up like wildflowers in spring, working tirelessly to create a more inclusive environment. They're like the pioneers of diversity, forging a new path for a more colorful Montana. Now, I know what you're thinking, Trevor, is this all just talk or is there real action happening? And that's a fair question. Look, change takes time, especially in a state where the cows outnumber the people of color. But there are signs of progress. Cities like Bozeman and Missoula are seeing a slow but steady increase in diversity, and with that comes a greater understanding and appreciation for different cultures. It's like adding a little bit of spice to that bland bowl of vanilla ice cream. It might not be a flavor explosion, but it's a step in the right direction. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're heading to North Dakota, the Peace Garden State. Now, North Dakota is known for its booming economy thanks to oil and agriculture. They've got black gold and golden wheat fields, but when it comes to black people, not so much. We're talking less than 3% black population. That's like trying to find a Democrat at a Ted Cruz rally. You might stumble across one, but you're going to have to squint to see them. So what gives? Why is North Dakota so white? Well, part of it is its history. It was settled by hardy folks from Scandinavia and Germany, looking for wide open spaces, and let's be honest, not a lot of black people were clamoring to farm in sub-zero temperatures. Can you blame them? Winter is brutal enough without adding systemic racism to the mix. But hey, it's not all bleak. Cities like Fargo, the cultural hub of North Dakota, yes, you read that right, Fargo has culture, are seeing a slow but steady increase in diversity. They're like the little engine that could, chugging along and proving that even in the heartland, change is possible. During WATU, black workers helped build military bases in North Dakota. They faced harsh winters and prejudice, leading many to leave post-war. Today, North Dakota is embracing diversity through refugee resettlement. New faces and cultures are adding flavor to the state. Diversity brings fresh perspectives and hope for a welcoming future. Welcome back to our road trip across America, exploring the least racially diverse states. This week we're in South Dakota, home of Mount Rushmore. South Dakota is beautiful, no doubt. But when it comes to diversity, it's a little less Grand Canyon. The black population here is under 2%. Cities like Sioux Falls and Rapid City are trying to diversify, because diversity makes us stronger and more interesting. So, we're in Sioux Falls, the biggest city in South Dakota. They've got a falls, but do they have enough melanin to go around? The answer, my friends, is complicated. Look, Sioux Falls is trying, I'll give them that. They've got a growing refugee community, which is awesome. And there are some local organizations working hard to promote diversity and inclusion. But let's be real, we're starting from a pretty low baseline here. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of sandcastles. You gotta admire the ambition, but you also gotta wonder about the structural integrity. One thing's for sure, change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, effort, and a whole lot of uncomfortable conversations. South Dakota, you've got a lot to offer, but you're missing out on a whole lot more by not embracing diversity. So, let's keep the conversation going, shall we? Because a state as beautiful as this deserves a population as diverse and vibrant as its landscapes. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be back here talking about how South Dakota went from Mount Rushmore to Mount more than just white people. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're headed to Iowa. Land of cornfields, caucuses, and a whole lot of white people. Even I gotta admit, endless fields of corn can get monotonous. Iowa has one of the lowest black populations in the U.S. Cities like Des Moines and Cedar Rapids are trying to change things up. Diversity breeds innovation, creativity, and more interesting potluck dinners. The future is colorful, my friends. Time to add some flavor to those cornfields. Alright folks, we're in Des Moines, the heart of Iowa. Des Moines is one of the fastest growing cities in the Midwest. More people, more opportunities, more diversity. It's a work in progress. But hey, Rome wasn't built in a day. Pack your hiking boots, folks, because we're headed to Idaho. Land of majestic mountains, pristine lakes, and potatoes. Lots and lots of potatoes. But too much of a good thing can get a little bland. Idaho's demographics are less than 1% black, like finding a needle in a haystack. But cities like Boise are breaking the mold. Diversity brings new ideas and perspectives. Maybe one day, Idaho will be known for more than just its potatoes. Alright folks, we've arrived in Boise, the capital of Idaho. Now, Boise is a bit of an anomaly. It's a city that's trying to embrace diversity in a state that's, well, let's just say it's still getting used to the idea. Think of it as the rebellious teenager of Idaho trying to forge its own path. They've got a growing tech industry, a burgeoning art scene, and a surprisingly diverse culinary scene. You can find everything from Ethiopian food to Vietnamese pho. It's like a little melting pot in the middle of a sea of potatoes. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Boise, like the rest of Idaho, still has a long way to go when it comes to racial equity. There's a lot of work to be done to address systemic racism and create a truly inclusive environment for everyone. But hey, change starts somewhere, right? And maybe, just maybe...
Okay, well, that's good that those states have improved, but wherever it is good, this is demonic. Here was some states where that were the most racist places in America. Shout out to these channels.
Racism has been an integral part of American history. From the era of slavery to the atrocities faced by Native Americans, the Jim Crow laws, and the internment camps. Despite numerous federal and state laws enacted to address these issues, racism remains a significant problem today. Defined as prejudice or discrimination against individuals based on race or ethnicity, racism is widely acknowledged as morally wrong. However, many still unknowingly harbor racist views. Using anonymous social media data, we gain insight into the states with the highest levels of racism. Remember, while these states have a notable number of racist individuals, the majority of their residents are not. If you want more videos on topics like the states with the highest black or white populations, let's hit 5,000 likes. Here are the 10 most racist states in America. Number 10, Maryland. At first glance, Maryland might not appear to be very racist. It ranks as the 12th least systemically racist state, with a relatively low income gap by race, and is the 11th most racially integrated state in workplaces, schools, and voting booths. However, 16.59 of Twitter accounts discussing race in Maryland use derogatory language. This is surprising given Maryland's high educational standards as the 4th most educated state. Yet, its history of racism is undeniable. Interracial marriage was illegal until 1967, and towns like Rising Sun and Thurmont were once KK strongholds. Maryland was also among the last states to abolish slavery, not doing so until November 1864. Although there were only 11 hate crimes reported in 2020, the legacy of racism persists, particularly in rural areas. Number 10, Maryland. West Virginia has a reputation as one of the most racist states, and data supports this, with 16.78 of tweets about race containing hateful rhetoric. Unlike Maryland, West Virginia's racism is often blatant. Many residents openly use racial slurs, and there are numerous reports advising people of color to avoid bars in certain areas for safety reasons. While most West Virginians are welcoming, the state's overwhelmingly white population, 97.4 mates, many have never interacted with people of different races, fostering ignorance and fear. Despite having the 10th lowest employment gap by race and the second lowest income gap, these figures may reflect the overall economic struggles of the state, rather than true racial equality. Number 8, Arkansas. Arkansas has a long history of racism, evident from the existence of signs promoting segregation and a former sheriff using racial slurs. Surprisingly, it is one of only 2 southern states on this list, while 16.83 of tweets discussing race in Arkansas were hateful. The state's notoriety is also due to its high number of hate groups per capita and the modern Ku Klux Klan headquartered in Zinc. Harrison, Arkansas is often cited as one of the most racist towns in America. Although not everyone there shares these views, the older generation's proud racism still cast a shadow over the community. Number 7, Kansas. Kansas shows systemic issues with racism, ranking 34th for income gap by race and 37th for racial integration. In cities like Wichita and the Kansas City suburbs, racial divides are visibly stark. Reddit users report a prevalence of racist comments, especially towards minorities and immigrants. The state's older population, many of whom lived through the era of Jim Crow laws, has passed down racist beliefs to younger generations. This is reflected in 16.95 of tweets about race in Kansas being derogatory. Number 6, Wisconsin. Known for its dairy and the Packers, Wisconsin also struggles with racism. In 2020, the state recorded 74 hate crimes and ranks poorly for racial integration and income disparity. The president of the Milwaukee Bucks called Milwaukee the most segregated, racist place he has experienced. Suburbs formed through racist policies still show these divisions. Personal accounts from residents reveal a high level of prejudice, with 16.98 of tweets about race being hateful. Number 5, Hawaii. Hawaii, while seemingly a paradise, has its own racial issues. Although 17.6 of tweets about race were derogatory, much of this stems from ignorance rather than hate. The popularity of rap music and a lack of a significant black culture in the state contribute to this issue. While Hawaii ranks as the least institutionally racist state, the everyday use of racial slurs and stereotypes highlights a need for greater awareness and education. Number 4, Mississippi. Mississippi, with its history of deep-rooted racism, sees 18.59% of tweets about race being derogatory. Despite some progress, such as the removal of a Jim Crow-era law from its constitution, the state still has significant racial disparities. It has the 8th largest employment gap by race and the 12th largest income gap. The state's historical reluctance to change and its status as the blackest state in the country make these issues particularly poignant. Number 3, Maine. Maine, though seemingly progressive, has a significant racism issue. With over 95% of its population being white, many residents have limited interaction with non-white individuals, leading to ignorance and casual racism. Reports of rude comments and racial slurs are common. The state's rural areas, in particular, struggle with these issues, as reflected in 19.25% of tweets about race being hateful. Number 2, South Dakota. South Dakota, despite its proximity to less racist states, shows significant racial disparities. With 20% of tweets about race being derogatory, the state has the second worst employment gap by race and the worst income gap. The state's history of discrimination against Native Americans is still evident today, with reports of landlords and employers rejecting applicants based on race. The systemic racism here is deeply entrenched. Number 1, Delaware. Delaware tops the list with 21.4% of tweets about race being derogatory. This small state, often overlooked, surprisingly has a high level of online racism, compared to Vermont, the least racist state with only 6.96% hateful tweets. Delaware's numbers are stark. The state's small size doesn't diminish the significance of these findings, highlighting that racism can be pervasive anywhere. Remember, these statistics don't mean everyone in these states is racist.
Yeah, you're right. But unfortunately, there are. Well,
Welcome to our video on the top 10 most racist cities in the US. In this video, we will unveil the truth about these cities and their histories. Let's begin. Look, let's be honest, no city wants to be on a list of the most racist anything. And frankly, it's a fool's errand to try and rank them because, well, racism is everywhere in America. It's baked into the very foundation of this country. We're talking about a nation built on stolen land by stolen labor, and we're still seeing the ramifications of that today. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. In fact, it's more important than ever to shine a light on the cities where racial disparities are the starkest, where the echoes of Jim Crow still ring a little too loudly. So no, this isn't about pointing fingers or shaming cities. This is about confronting a very real, very uncomfortable truth about America, and hopefully inspiring some actual change. Coming in at number 10 is Birmingham, Alabama. And look, while this city may not be burning crosses on lawns, not that that makes it okay in 2023, by the way. Seriously, who even has a spare cross just lying around? It certainly has its own unique brand of toxicity. We're talking about a city where black residents are 3 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white residents, despite similar usage rates. And that's not even getting into the whole Birmingham church bombing in 1963. Let's just say this city's history is about as pretty as a Confederate flag made of toenail clippings. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Birmingham is also home to several initiatives and organizations working to combat racism, like the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. So there's hope yet, maybe, if we're being generous. And frankly, I'm not feeling very generous. Sliding into the number 9 spot is Boston, Massachusetts, a city that really seems to love its history, selectively. They'll gladly give you a walking tour of that charming colonial neighborhood, but good luck finding a plaque that acknowledges the fact that Boston has faced numerous racial tensions and controversies over the years. And speaking of glossing over things, let's talk about Boston's approach to policing. Let's just say that when it comes to racial profiling, they're about as subtle as a brick through a window. For instance, black residents in Boston are disproportionately stopped and searched by the police. And before you say, but statistics can be misleading, consider who they're usually misleading in favor of. Hint, it's not the marginalized communities. But hey, Boston isn't all bad. They do have that one really good falafel place. And honestly, at this point, that's enough to earn them a participation trophy in this whole least racist city competition. Coming in at a solid number 8 is St. Louis, Missouri. Now you might be thinking, St. Louis, I thought they were known for their music and food, and you'd be right. But here's the thing about racism. It loves a good disguise. It's like the bedbugs of social issues. Just when you think you've gotten rid of it, it pops up again, usually in the most inconvenient places like, say, your housing market. In St. Louis, African American residents are significantly more likely to face housing discrimination and economic hardships. It's almost like there's this invisible force keeping certain groups of people from achieving the American dream. And by invisible force, I mean systemic racism. And look, it's not like St. Louis isn't trying. They've got initiatives like the St. Louis Equal Housing and Community Reinvestment Alliance working to combat racism. But trying and actually dismantling centuries of deeply ingrained prejudice are 2 very different things. It's like trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun. Sure, you're doing something, but it's probably not going to be enough. Chapter 4, City number 7, Chicago, Illinois. Chicago, you've landed gracefully in the 7th spot on our little countdown of America's most racially fraught cities. Now, some might say this ranking is unfair. After all, Chicago is known for its diverse population and vibrant culture. But let's be real, folks, even the most charming city can harbor some ugly secrets. And by secrets, I mean blatant, in-your-face discrimination. For example, did you know that in Chicago, the racial disparity in education, healthcare, and income is staggering? It's almost as if the city has this unspoken agreement to keep certain communities perpetually disadvantaged. Now, to be fair, Chicago does have numerous initiatives and organizations working to combat racism in the city, but it often feels like they're fighting an uphill battle against a tidal wave of apathy, and frankly, I'm not sure we have enough life vests for everyone. Chapter 5, City Number 6, Los Angeles, California. Coming in at number 6, it's Los Angeles, a city that seems to be in a constant state of denial about its own racism. It's like that friend who insists they don't see color while simultaneously clutching their purse a little tighter when a black person walks by. We're talking about a city where black-owned businesses receive a fraction of the loans that white-owned businesses receive. And let's not forget about the 1992 Los Angeles riots, a significant event that the city often tries to downplay. It's almost as if Los Angeles has collectively decided to just sweep its issues under the rug and pretend they don't exist. But here's the thing about rugs, folks. Eventually the dirt piles up so high that you can't ignore it anymore. And when that happens, well, let's just say it's not going to be pretty. Chapter 6, City Number 5, Detroit, Michigan. Ah, Detroit, you've sashayed your way into the 5th spot on our list. And honestly, it's not that surprising. This is a city where the ghosts of racism aren't content to just lurk in the shadows. They're practically throwing a parade in broad daylight. We're talking about a city where black and Latino students are disproportionately disciplined in schools, even for minor infractions. And don't even get me started on the whole 1967 Detroit riot, a historical event that still has present-day ramifications. It's like the city is stuck in a time warp, reliving the same discriminatory practices over and over again. But hey, at least Detroit has a rich musical heritage and a vibrant art scene, so there's that. Well, look who's barged their way into the number 4 spot. It's New York City, a city that wears its racism like a badge of honor. Okay, maybe not a badge of honor, more like a dirty pair of underwear that they refuse to wash. We're talking about a city where the racial wealth gap is wider in New York City than in any other major city in the country. And if you think that's bad, just wait until you hear about the 1964 Harlem riots, a stark reminder of the city's blatant disregard for racial equality. It's almost as if New York City is actively trying to win some sort of most racist city award. But hey, at least they have iconic landmarks and a bustling tourist scene. That's got to count for something, right? Chapter 8, City Number 3, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Congratulations, Philadelphia. You've officially clinched the bronze medal in this race to the bottom. And honestly, with a track record like yours, it's not hard to see why. We're talking about a city where black residents are consistently exposed to higher levels of pollution than white residents. And let's not gloss over the fact that Philadelphia has a long history of segregation and police brutality. It's like Philadelphia is determined to prove that racism isn't just a relic of the past, it's a thriving, festering problem in the present. But hey, at least Philadelphia has the Liberty Bell, so there's a silver lining, I guess. Chapter 9, City Number 2, Atlanta, Georgia. Coming in at a close second is Atlanta, a city that's practically synonymous with racial tension. And honestly, with a resume like theirs, it's not hard to see why. We're talking about a city where black drivers are 3 times more likely to be stopped and searched by police than white drivers, even when controlling for driving behavior. And let's not forget about the Atlanta race riot of 1906, a significant event that had a lasting impact on the city's racial dynamics. It's almost as if Atlanta has been stuck in a time loop, repeating the same mistakes over and over again, but hey, at least they have a rich cultural history and vibrant art scene. So there's that, I guess, though at this point it's starting to feel like putting lipstick on a pig. No offense to pigs who, as far as I know, are not capable of systemic racism. Chapter 10, City Number 1, Ferguson, Missouri. And finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, the top spot on our list of America's most racially problematic cities goes to, drumroll, Ferguson, surprise. Or maybe not surprise at all, because let's be real, this city's reputation precedes it. We're talking about a city where the median income for black households is less than half that of white households. And as if that wasn't bad enough, let's not forget about the shooting of Michael Brown in 2014, which became a focal point for racial tensions and police brutality. It's like Ferguson took the phrase, "hold my beer," as a challenge to see how many racist incidents they could cram into their history. But hey, at least Ferguson has some community events and local attractions. Because at this point, we'll take any glimmer of hope we can get, even if it's just just a flickering light bulb in a very dark, very racist basement. America is still working on it, badly. So there you have it, folks. Our whirlwind tour of America's most racially troubled cities. And look, I know what you're thinking. This is depressing. I need a drink. And you know what? You're not wrong. Because here's the thing. Racism isn't just a problem for these 10 cities. It's an American problem. It's in our DNA. It's in our institutions. It's in the very air we breathe. But here's the good news. We can change that. We can dismantle these systems of oppression. We can call out racism wherever we see it. And we can demand better for ourselves and for each other.
I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. So during this Black History Month, I think it's fitting to ask the question, why didn't Black Americans run away from America when slavery ended? Why didn't we do like a lot of these black people from other parts of the world, from Africa and the Caribbean and other parts of the world? Why didn't we just leave? Why didn't we flee? Why didn't we go somewhere else looking for a better life? Why did we stay here? Because we have certainly gone through some things. We've had some real challenges staying here. So why didn't we go back? Well, the fact of the matter is some did go. Some went to Liberia. Some went to Mexico, some went to the Caribbean, a few. But we didn't leave in any large numbers. We stayed here, not only stayed here in the United States, but stayed in the South. Most of our ancestors stayed in the South where they had been enslaved. So why did they stay? Well, there were actually a couple of reasons why they stayed. Number one, they had put in 246 years of free labor building this empire, and they could see the results of their work. It wasn't like they were just here doing nothing. They were building, they were growing, they were inventing, they were getting educated, they were building institutions, they were building communities, they were building churches, they were building their lives here. So they had the courage to say, we're not running. We're not leaving. We built this. This was built with our blood, sweat, and tears. And we're not walking away from what we built. So they had the presence of mind to stand on their square even in those days. So the first reason that they stayed here was their sense of ownership in this land. They had ownership in this land. They were here when this country was established, and they are the ones who put the infrastructure in place. And then there was a sense of pride. They had been brought to this country against their will, forced into captivity, free labor, and had done their due diligence here, even under duress. So they had a sense of pride. It's like, you're not going to work me for 250 years, not pay me anything. I do all of this work, set this country in place, and then I'm going to run? Because remember, Abraham Lincoln had said that they couldn't live in this country. They needed to send them to the Dominican Republic. And Frederick Douglass and another group of black men told them, we are not going anywhere. This is our land. We worked for this. And so they had the sense of pride, they had a sense of ownership, and they had a sense of courage. It had been tough for them from the beginning, all through slavery. It had been tough. So they took on the attitude that we're willing to ride it out. We're not going anywhere. So they had that kind of constitution. that kind of character and that kind of courage going for them. We are not leaving. This is our land. We worked for this. And again, they could see the results of their labor. And the half has not even been told yet. We still don't know the full breadth of the contributions that the enslaved people made to this country, because things are still being uncovered. But what we know is that they had a sense of ownership, they had a sense of pride, and they had the courage to stand and say, we are not leaving. We built this. Another reason they didn't run was because America held out hope for them. The 13th Amendment freed them. The 14th Amendment gave them citizenship, due process, and equal protection under the law. And the 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote. And beginning in 1865, Reconstruction began. And they were in political offices, they were holding political offices, they were building colleges, they were inventing, still always inventing, and the future looked bright for them.
Yeah, she's absolutely right on that. And but yeah, I just want to give a brief history about, from the present, what the stats show about racial history among black Americans. And it mentions other people too, but also give people an idea of what she said about history, why some black people won't leave to this day, because some black people, even generationally now, won't leave because of what their ancestors invested in this land. So I can respect that, to a certain degree. But despite of all the ugly racism that we see over time, and that spirit of racism is still in America and is still manifesting itself. And so that's what's really, it is, you have to be a special kind of person to go through something like that. And black people, we are the special kind of people that can take it on the chin and keep on going, and to take the pressure and have some value. And it have you really, it really opened up to you about these states that people keep saying this is the past. But you see how, even though there's progress, but there's still pockets of racism. And I'm not just saying it's not anywhere else, because there's other country is racism on black people in even other parts of the world. But in America, it seemed like one of the places we start to see in different cities and states in America is still have a stronghold. And that's one of the things I noticed about in this video, and it's real eye-opening. And shout out to the content creators for getting stats and everything. So when people, narrating truth, and what she said is very, very true. Sorry. What she said is very true. But yeah, it's something that it still haunts America. And I give it to the black people that still hang down there. But it comes to a point in time, I don't know if I could live someplace, and no offense to people in the South, like black people that live down there, but Mississippi and places like that see generational, and I was thinking about the generational racism. I mean, yeah, the land, you have some property, but I was watching a video recently where this guy was showing it's still segregation in place like, was it Birmingham, Alabama, and he was saying how there were top 6 places on different sides of town where it's still happening. And of course he got a lot of flack for it. People trying to say no, that means something else, but he was he lived in Alabama, so he was I think he's Puerto Rican and Cuban, and he was saying how the way no, this he lived down and he's experienced being a Hispanic individual and how he treat Hispanic immigrants in Alabama. So this thing with racism have really show its ugly head over and over and over again. And these stats with the commentator said it proves it. And it's not like the South and the North. You got places like he said, Wisconsin. You got some places in, let's say, like different places in sections of New York and Missouri, the state of Missouri, the state of New York, and other avenues of states. And so we see that, and then where even though there was least diversity of black people, they're trying to, when black people moved there, they encountered the racism. You know, if they go in areas like North Dakota, South Dakota, and moved up there for a job reason, educational reason, for one thing, it will probably be too cold to go up there. And I think it's the cold. And then you have to really be maybe a person that likes the country or like that kind of life, but to go up and be like anybody else, not particularly, but this is just focused on what the commentator said. Yeah, race would always be an issue, and people, it's the spirit of it. The spirit of racism will be hover around America for a long time. And even though we have every people of every culture in this country, I don't know what it is. It's just that I believe it's a spirit on this nation that aligns with it, that never settle itself. It's trying in different places, like the guy was saying, but it's a stronghold that it will not release. And it's generational, and you see how it goes from generation after generation after generation. It's the same issue, and you will see it. And some cities, if they don't be aware of and correct the information, you're gonna end up in like little sundown towns where there's no population. Look at it. You ever heard? You probably see some YouTube commentaries. There's a city in Illinois called they call it Cairo, Illinois. Do you know that city it was booming at one time, and it had industry because you have all the three rivers and lakes that run through there, and now it's a ghost town, and it had a history of racism. One of the factors was, but that history of racism ran black people out and other people, and they said it was always some strife. It got to the point that maybe, and then the county and whatever start going down with the finances, the taxes, and everything. Now to this day, Cairo, Illinois, YouTubers have gone by it, and till this day they show you this area is still, and you will figure a town like that in America, by it being coming up on that river that goes all the way down, that's the Mississippi River that goes all the way down, it would still be growth from that. Businesses that bring in produce like you see in places like Maine to Alaska. Why is that? It's because look what she done. Now, unlike places like Maine, that's still, and Alaska, it's a little bit different up there. But a place like Cairo, Illinois, that's really sad because it could have been a more industry place. But till this day, there are people in different parts of Illinois. This is Illinois that it has the same mindset as the racist people in Mississippi, and it's because of that they hurting their people. When people don't come together and work together and put out that animosity and that jealousy and that envious, America is going to cost herself. That's the reason why. If we could if he would try and sabotage and be so greedy and work with conjunction with one another, whether it's the Latino, the Asians, or African Americans, Black Americans, and white can work together, Cairo, Illinois could have been one of the most productive areas. But Cairo, Illinois choose to be racist. And look what it does. She got so greedy, and it's towns like that and throughout this country that still, even to towns like Arkansas, hurt themselves. They got a reputation that hurt themselves. Imagine being the most racist town. And this is what they don't understand is, these people, places like Arkansas, Vidor, Texas, they don't understand. If no industry go there, and you're not going to have no people there. You're not going to have if there's no culture, it's going to be bland. There's nobody going to deal with you. You're going to be outcast, outskirt. This is what these racist cities and towns and these individuals in these races and cities and towns don't understand. You see America as it is certain places and towns. You got to go to another state, another city just to really have a success, to have a career or somewhat survive. Because places in West Virginia ain't nothing down there. The coal industry is just about destroyed. And then what happens? You can't blame it. You can't blame it on. But part of it is because people didn't collab together, and industries could have came together. People need people to bring things together. If you don't have people to bring things together, you're gonna have situations like that. And it only hurts itself. Maybe some states like West Virginia, there's some certain people will open up their eyes and stop thinking that everything is going to invade their family, invade their blood, invade their culture. And look what happened. They hurt other people, so those industries go to other places. So I would say to the racist people, to the indirect racist and direct racist, is it worth it? Is it what have you done being racist towards black people and other people? Have you accomplished anything? Is anything forward? Look how we moving. Any racist place people on the planet, they have never produced nothing. Nothing. No other area have ever gained to produce. Other people that saying we have our differences, but let's work our differences together. And in many towns and many cities, if you have ignorant individuals and residents stopping and having their police doing stuff like this, you're going to hurt yourself, and your children are going to pay the price of it because they're going to have to move away, and that's a fact. That's what the whole purpose of this thing about. If you don't stop what you're doing, if you're a white person that can't adjust to reality, it's not going. The earth is changing. Or if you're any other person, you're gonna have to change with the time. You got to change your mentality, because your family, you're hurting yourself, and you're hurting your family, and you're hurting your finances. So is racism worth all that? You can't have it both ways and think that you can just remain on top and do whatever you want to do to other people and think that it's going to work out. It doesn't work out. And so, but for the people who do, God bless you for the ones who's trying to do something. Too bad you got the ones that don't want it. They want to keep the old ways around. But they're going to find out real soon. And if they would ever they will come to their senses. God bring it to their senses, like, why my town still live like this? Because you kept it that way. You always kept it that way. You stopped the progress. Because your envious, your jealousy, and your generational hatred have cost you more than anything. And I hope a white person tell another white person this. This is what we done. You have to face up to it. If you don't, before you leave this earth, God's gonna make you confront with it. And the ones who have it, who said it in secret, directly someone that looked like them, God was present when you said it. So you can't hide it and can't deny it. And these are the people who always say, because someone is going to look like you, going to say, yeah, you said it. It's going to make you put you on the spot. So you want to be in that generational curse, keep doing what you're doing, America. Keep being racist, because you're not going to progress. And any other country want to be racist. That's why your economy's sliding down. You think you're hurting by pushing other people away. You're only hurting yourself. So that's the message of the video. People got to come together. If you don't, if we divided, we fall apart. If we're united, we stand. We can come together if we learn to treat each other as human beings on this planet. That's the important message of this video. Hope you like this, like and subscribe. I hope you share this video and just, educate someone. And if you know someone's a bigot and got this insecure, envious, jealousy mindset, get it through their head. It's that this is the only way. Because if you might live in a city and town in America or somewhere, and you're wondering why, that's one of the major reasons why that your town haven't grown. And God can't bless a town that keeps doing like that. He's not just, and He sees everything. Think about it. So where there's injustice on others, it will be justice in His kingdom. Take care, be blessed.